Ain't no half stepping with Marcus J. Thank you so much for staying with us. I want to give a give a quick shout out to my man Hakeem. Yo, I agree with you on going with Jersey City, man. I wanted to get a little double X posse in, but I got to screen to make sure ain't too many foul words and stuff in it. And I also was thinking about some Chill Rob G, Big Rube and Jay Grizzy and Marcus J was listening to little Chill Rob G yesterday, but they was giving me grief. They didn't like the power. I love the power. I could have played, little quarters now in session, ride the rhythm. I could have played some of that stuff, but I'm gonna give Jersey City a little bit more love later on. But I definitely wanted to get a little Jersey in there. We playing a little bit of East Coast hip hop from the late '80s or early '90s tonight. That's what the theme is. Real quick, I want to go ahead and just kind of hit a couple of notes. Hakeem is agreeing with Nikki B's note about Fantasia needing to read first. So Hakeem need to learn how to read first. We getting Alicia on the MixLR page that says Beyonce is just as ignorant as Fantasia. She just got more money and better people, and Tony is agreeing with her. I disagree with both of them because I don't see what B got to do with anything. It is what it is. I think that Beyonce is very similar to Carmelo Anthony in the fact that people want to just throw dirt on him and not really paying that much attention. People are like, oh, she can't talk. She's not that, articulate. That's nonsense. She can talk. I've seen her in interviews. You seen her in the most recent interview. You seen the most recent interview with Oprah. She sounded very articulate. She knows what she's talking about. Speaking of Carmelo Anthony, he is out for the game. Injured right knee. He is not going to return to the game. It is the third quarter. New York Knicks is down by 4. In Cleveland, they were down by as many as 20 earlier on, so they are making a run back. We'll see what happens with the New York Knicks later on in this game. But doesn't matter. We're done with the sports, but I figured I'd put that out there. Ain't no half step with Marcus J. This next story, Riz, I'm going to come to you on this one first.
All right.
Joan Rivers. Joan Rivers is under fire because she made a joke about Heidi Klum. Now, you wonder what the deal is with that. Joan Rivers. When's the last time she got any love on Ain't No Half Step with Marcus J on LegacyInternetRadio.com? Right? Joan Rivers sparking controversy recently over a joke she made about Heidi Klum and the sexy Julian McDonald dress that she wore at the Elton John's Aid Foundation Academy Awards party. Here's what she said, Grizz.
What she said?
And I want to make sure that everybody in the room
won't get it right.
Hold on to your emotions. Don't be screaming into your mics, because this one right here, this one made me laugh out loud. I almost spit my beer out my nose when I heard this one. The last time a German looked this hot was when they was pushing Jews into ovens.
Yeah.
This is what Joan Rivers said of the German-born supermodel on Monday's episode of E's Fashion Police. Of course, the Anti-Defamation League was not happy. Abraham Foxman, who's also a Holocaust survivor himself.
What's his name again?
Abraham H. Foxman.
Okay.
Said in a statement that the comments were vulgar and offensive to Jews and Holocaust survivors. Now, I got some place I want to go on this one. I'm going to go around the room, let the four of y'all speak on it. I want to see if someone knows me well enough to know where I'm going to go. We're going to go around the room. We're going to start with Grizz, and we're going to go to Carlton Banks and make our way to AT and Big Rope.
All right. Well, before I even speak on it, being that it's you premised it by saying it's a joke. Now, to all comedians, everything is on the table. Joan Rivers, although she has not done much, on the stand-up scene lately, otherwise, back in the day, she was a legend. She was standing in for Johnny Carson. She's done TV a lot. She just got a lot of plastic surgery. She looked like, I don't know what she looked like. But, she looks right. But here's what I'm saying with that is the joke is going to be, some people are not going to be able to take it. Everybody's got sensitivities, but you're getting it from Joan Rivers. So, you shouldn't be going to a comics show or hear comics thing. And another thing I want to say is Joan Rivers is Jewish. So for the ADL to get on her, and I know they get on everybody about saying anything in regards to Jewish culture, I get that, I understand that, but it's a joke, and so you got to take jokes with a grain of salt. If it stepped on your toes, I'm sure Joan Rivers is very sorry.
Okay, so let Tom Arnold drop the N-bomb. We ain't gonna be happy. We ain't gonna be upset.
I've had that happen.
But we ain't gonna be upset.
Right, I've had that happen in a pretty white honky tonk establishment where the bar owner dropped the N-bomb when a whole bunch of black comics performed.
Okay.
And a lot of black comics like, yo, I'm never gonna perform here again. But he's the owner of the bar.
Right.
You know, if he's giving us,
Is she the owner of the show?
Joan Rivers is the host of the show.
There are less tacky ways of expressing your opinion on somebody.
Right. We're not debating the tackiness. It's tacky. Yeah.
Tacky, ethnic, whatever way you want to look at it. There are less ways of doing it than what she did.
Not as a comic. She
used an analogy that was, one, hurtful and harmful, not only to her and disrespectful to her heritage, but definitely
she apologized to Abraham.
But you know what? You came out and said it first.
Yeah,
you should have thought before you said
comics
it.
don't. I'm gonna tell you, from
comics have their script. Have a script.
Don't
sit there and act like they don't have a script. Jay.
For the most part, I'm gonna defend it because for the most part, a comic has a script.
Okay,
but he has to say what he feels, what he thinks is going to convey the joke. And honestly, it wouldn't be an article, and ain't no half stepping wouldn't be talking about it if Joan Rivers didn't say it. You know what I'm saying? So you got to push buttons, i.e. Lenny Bruce, a Richard Pryor, what's my man? Bill Cosby even. He's done comedy not in that particular, realm, but he said things were controversial on black folk of all that, and black folk come out against him. So what I'm saying is that when you hear it from a comic, you have to take it for what it is. If you're not into the joke, it wasn't meant for you to laugh at.
Yo, man, we just need to stop being like sensitive little people, man. I mean, really? So what? And then next week she makes another joke about, I guess, Costco decided not to take her book, and she says something on the line of, "I haven't been abused like this since the Holocaust." I don't know, something. I mean, but you know what? It's funny calling that you bring up, well, if a white dude says the N-word. I had this conversation with somebody, I can't remember who it was, but it was just like, I mean, if that's you, that's you. I mean, it is what it is. The problem is our world is so sensitive about any little thing. They go crying to the top of the mountain. That's not fair. You just look, man, you crying about it ain't going to change the price of tea in China. Period. Yeah. I mean, it's no point. And to hear people just cry about it really just turns me off and makes me feel like y'all terrible anyway.
I agree with that to some point of, with us as a society, we are sensitive with race issues because of the history of race, especially in the United States. But my question is, when do we stop as far as our jokes? Do we joke about child molestation?
Nope.
Abuse? Domestic abuse, different things like that. The comic in the room say yes. Well, just but I asked that, when do we stop though? As far as that being really funny. Right. Let me finish. Okay. Racially, I think we need to move on and stop being sensitive. Yeah. Racially, I do agree. But when do we? When do we cross the line? All right. That's why I want to know.
And to answer that question is, a lot of times you can think back, and I'll use the Richard Pryor situation where he was on live on such Strip, and he talked about he went to Africa and he never used the N-word again. My point is that a lot of things that comics or social commentators will talk about are things that the mainstream won't talk about. Use an example. Let's use Precious, since you brought up the child molestation. Precious for me was a hard movie to watch just on the fact, just on what was happening. But knowing that movie came out and hearing a lot of stories that in the African American community where child molestation is not reported and or talked about or is pushed under the covers, that particular art form being a movie brought that to light. So comics use certain things as well to bring things to light that society usually are uncomfortable with talking about. And so that's why I say it's good for a comic to use anything, any material to whether it's jokingly or just to talk on a particular subject to bring it to their audience.
Here's my thing on this one. Everybody's got, a good opinion on it, and I respect everybody's opinion. Nikki is hitting us on the Facebook page, and Nikki, we appreciate you listening. Thank you so much for your support tonight. She's saying that Joan Rivers made a career out of making inappropriate comments, and we pretty much should get over it. And I understand that line of thinking. It's similar to what we talked about last week on the show when we used to be on that other website, but we on Legacy Internet Radio now in MixLR. We already talked about this when we talked about Seth MacFarlane saying what he said about the young lady from the Academy Awards and the Onion, calling her out her name and all that stuff. But here's my point. While we understand inappropriate jokes and we understand that some people have made careers out of this sort of thing, and while we also understand that we should get over it, if we're not Jewish, it's real easy for us to say get over it. But if we're Jewish and we hear people making jokes about the Holocaust, we like, yo, we ain't gonna just get over it. But see, here's the thing. But here's the thing. Here's the thing. And I knew somebody would go there. And that's the reason why I brought this up. Me, I can't freaking stand that nasty ass N-word. And every time somebody says it, it pisses me off. Because you should know better. Anybody that's black in this country should know the power of that nasty ass N-word. But we still say it. We walk around, yo, what's up, my N? And all this kind of nonsense, right?
Right.
All this kind of nonsense. People in this room use that word.
Yep.
Right? I've used that word. Okay? But I know better now, and I refuse to use it. But here's the thing. While we got other cultures who understand that when you attack them, that it's time to stand up and be like, hell no, we ain't going for it. Why don't we do that as black people? Why those of us who have issues with the N-word, and there's enough of us, why don't we collectively step up and be like, you know what, every time we hear it in a rap song, we need to do something. Every time we hear it in a stand-up, we need to do something. You try using the K word for Jewish people publicly and see what happened to you. Ask Michael Jackson, he's not here, but ask Michael Jackson what happens when you use the K word. You know what I'm saying? That's where I wanted to go with this, right? Every single culture, gay people, you can't call them the F word. Hell no. See what happened to you. You use the F word. They got the president of the United States calling them out by name, supporting them. When the last time the president of the United States even said the word black or African American? You see what I'm saying? It's the power that all the cultures and organizations come together when they feel slighted, whether the rest of us agree with them or not. They come through and they collectively make sure that their interests are taken care of. We as black people don't do it. That's my problem. Big
You
Road.
gonna make me stop saying the N-word.
Yeah, you should. The reason why
I
is
can't.
because
My bad.
the reason why is because we as people, as black people, have not figured out the art of coming together. We have so many different levels, and I hate to say it this way, but we have different levels of black people. We have the young black people, we have the old black people, we have the middle black people, we have the dark black people, we got the light black people, we got the mixed black people. I mean, we have so many different types of black people that we can't come together as black people and get it done. Why is a dark brother hating on a light brother and vice versa? That's the stupidest crap ever. And we can't come together for anything. And you know what? The worst part about all of it is there are black people making money off the N-word.
I disagree. We can come together for one thing: a 2-piece biscuit and some fries, brother.
Aaron Turner, what you got on this, brother?
I definitely agree. It's the unity. We as a people have not begin that process of changing our mindset from when we got here in this country from slavery, and it will never happen because we cannot get on one page. All the other groups that you have mentioned, the one thing they have, unity. The gay people, I mean, Indian, Arabs, you name it, all of them have unity. I mean, if you can have a Korean guy have a Korean store. He see a Korean guy walking down the street. Korean guy say, "Hey, look, I need a job." He will hire him just because he's Korean. If the same thing with us as black folks. If I have a business, if I see Marcus J as another brother come to me, they say, "Look, I need a job," I would not hire him because he's black, and that's the problem. And we can go real deep into it. On my show, we talk about the Willie Lynch letters, and and those of you who don't know about the Willie Lynch letters, you need to read up on it because it explains a lot what's going on and still going on today with our people.
Ain't no half stepping with Marcus J. Last subject that I want to get into in this what the hell segment here is I like to read the bylines before I actually get into them, so I'll do that here. Students wrestle gun away from potential school shooter, get suspended. Yeah, pause. Long blank stare, pause. Students wrestle gun away from potential school shooters, get suspended. A 16-year-old high school student and two others who wrestled a gun away from another teenager threatening to shoot are being treated as anything but heroes. In fact, they were suspended by their high school for potential life-saving actions. Basically, you got a sophomore at Cypress Lake High School in Florida led to two others taking the gun away from the 15-year-old who was threatening to shoot on the bus ride home last Tuesday. Witnesses told the local station that the student aimed the weapon point blank at another student and threatened to pull the trigger. They wrestled it from him, and of course the students involved who did the wrestling, these kids are fighting for their lives. One of the mothers said, she's one of the mothers of the kids who was, wrestling the gun away. All these kids that were involved in this should have been pat on their backs because they did the right thing to save someone from burying their child, end quote. And the school authorities told that mom that her son was suspended for not cooperating, but of course she disagreed. I'm gonna come to you on this one first, Carlton Banks. Everybody in this room either has children, nieces, nephews. We got children that are close to us, and of course your child is small. But I'm gonna go ahead and age him by about 8 or 9 years and put him on this bus for the purposes of this argument. Let's say he is one of those children who wrestled the gun because he's a good kid, because we know his dad's a good man. He's wrestling a gun away from one of these kids, and he gets in trouble for it. What's your thoughts on this, man, when you hear this story?
I want to know what they got in trouble for. I mean, it's something else that I'm not hearing from you. I mean, I can read the article, definitely, but it's something I'm not hearing from you as to why they got in trouble. There's more to that story. Granted, yes, they played the Good Samaritan role in that, and I'm happy they did do that. But like I said, there's something more to getting about that story. It's just like the kid last week who either took the gun or took some marijuana. He took marijuana to school because he didn't want his dad to smoke it. The kid had the right idea, but he went about it the wrong way. So, I think there's a little bit more to that. You said that's on your page?
I would agree with you. And when I read the story, I had the same idea in the article that I read and multiple articles because I looked further. Because when I first read it, I knew there had to be more. But what I'm been able to gather is the fact that they got suspended, Aaron Turner, because they was fighting on the bus. They was fighting on the bus because they was wrestling the kid with the gun. And so it's one of those situations where you're applying your school rules black and white to every situation instead of using the common sense to apply things where they belong and kind of step outside of that, when necessary. So Carlton Banks makes a good point. What the hell is missing? I understand because I looked for it and I couldn't figure out what was missing. What I deduced from it was the fact that these kids got arrested. Well, not arrested. I'm sorry. Got suspended for 3 days each. For what? For fighting. Who they were fighting? They was fighting the kid with the gun. What the hell?
Yeah, with me being a parent that have kids that's in high school, and if it was my child, and my child saved a lot of other kids' lives for doing that, of course I'll be kind of, well, for one, disturbed because, my child put herself in danger, once I got past that part. And if it was the suspension because of the altercation with the kid, that's when me as a parent and other parents need to join together and make some changes in some of the rules. Because, yes, I do agree you cannot put everything in black and white. I would rather, because, I wouldn't take the suspension because the suspension, of course, goes on their record. And, if they, legitimate fight, okay, that's fine. They did it. But for them to save so many, possibly so many lives with, nowadays, you hearing school shootings or alleged school shootings or school lockdowns on a, everyday basis now. So, I mean, it's like if, that was my child, that's when, I would want some answers and force some changes with these school rules.
That's when political correctness goes wrong. Like, there's certain things that, even as a progressive person in my political views, I think progressive reach too far in trying to be too monitoring of the rights and the wrongs of certain situations. So, for me in this situation, why I just don't understand how the kids who are protecting themselves and others are in trouble. If anything, the old school way, the kid that carried the gun would totally. He would have been lucky he got out of the bus with his life.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And so that's where, I guess they're trying to protect the shooter, but I mean, it just seems like a bizarro scenario to me.
Alicia is hitting us up on the MixLR page, and she's wondering if stand your ground even applies here. I think that she's somewhat
Right, that's
asking.
Florida. It was in Florida, though,
It was
right?
in Florida.
He's not. She's not. He's not at his home.
I think that she's somewhat asking the question tongue in cheek, but I get where she's coming from. I know I said that would be the last story, but I do have one more that I want to get into. The time is 9 p.m. Our show is from 7 to 9. Ain't no half step with Marcus J. Now independent on Legacy Internet Radio and MixLR. We appreciate everybody that's hung in there with us. This last story that I want to get into before we get into our rants and we get into our closings is on the Supreme Court Justice Antonin Scalia, I believe is his name, when they were discussing the Voting Rights Act of 1965. He said, quote, "It is racial entitlement." The Voting Rights Act, of course, was enacted in the 60s, 1965 to be specific, and the goal of it was to make sure that the southern states made sure that they were being fair to the people who wasn't white. We could say people of color, but pretty much everybody who wasn't white, you want to make sure that you're being protected. And the Voting Rights Act of 1965 was designed to make sure that all of the states that try to make changes to their voting rights statutes in their individual states, and there were 16 states, most of them in the South, they were supposed to get federal approval before they made any kinds of changes. And of course, the fact that the Supreme Court Justice decided that he felt that this was racial entitlement, my personal opinion, speaks to the underlying level of racism that is pervasive throughout our culture. When you have to say racial entitlement, that suggests that people of color, because whenever you say racial, you're not referring to the dominant culture in our in our country. So when you say racial, every time you say racial, that means people who ain't white. We need to make a law so that you get to vote. You don't just get to vote. We got to make something special so that you can vote. And him saying that this is racial entitlement says that he disagrees with you having the inherent right to vote just by virtue of you being a person who was born and raised in this country. So I'm going to come to you on this one first, Carlton Banks. What's your thoughts when you hear a Supreme Court justice who is going to have this job until he or she dies? What's your thoughts when you hear this, man?
Who put him in office? Who? Okay, then that's who I need to go talk to.
Ronald Reagan.
I can't talk to the Supreme Court justice on his views.
Too.
I know, but I'm just saying
Right.
the person you have to go back and look who put him into that position to begin with, and question their credibility and what they understood this justice to tendencies were. Just because it's just like Clarence Thomas. We black people expected Clarence Thomas to vote a certain way. Hold on, shut up. My turn.
Right.
Black people expected Clarence Thomas to vote a certain way on certain judicial affairs, and he did not.
After Thurgood Marshall retired,
hold on.
they replaced him with that. All right,
Go shade. Anyway, what I'm saying is, regardless of who's in there, once they get in there, hey, I'm in here. I can say whatever the hell I want to say. I can do whatever the hell I want to do and get away with it. So the question is, I have to go back and question the person who got him in there to begin with. That's the person I need to be mad at. It's not, once you get there, you're there. I can't help that.
Grizz?
I mean, you can go all the way back to Reagan and question why Reagan appointed him, and even why Bush appointed Clarence Thomas. We all know Clarence Thomas is not one of us. I can say that, and he's a black man, but he ain't the same black man like me. I can tell you, I don't have his views. His political views don't identify with my political views. In regards to Scalia, I mean, it's pretty obvious. I said this last Friday on the Aaron Turner show. It's because, and I think it's because we have Barack Obama as president. It's like whatever racial feelings you had towards the minority, it welled up like tenfold once Barack Obama became president. And so you can look at Congress, you can look at Scalia, you can look at the Tea Party, and how emboldened they are, because they still, in some way, shape, or mind, think that this is our country. We want to take our country back. You can look at the Sarah Palins in the world, and just hear their rhetoric. And so, for me to hear him go to this, say this racial entitlement thing, is just it's what I always say all along, and Big Rube always talks about it, what we call natural selection. These guys are going to die off.
I mean, the thing about it is, for those out there who think that racism is dead because we have a black president, this should slap you right in the face. And what has happened, what I do agree with Jay Grizzy, since we've had black president, we see the racial tension in this country. I mean, it just rose up to the top.
If you thought it was gone,
yeah, it's not gone. So to me, like I said on my show on Friday, the Aaron Turner show, this is not surprising by any means. I mean, you got most of them think like this. He just said it.
He just said it.
And it's gonna be more who said it.
Ain't no ass Steppin with Marcus J. We're gonna leave it there. We're gonna take our final break of the night, and then we have the first bunch of rants and closings that we will ever have on Ain't No Half Steppin with Marcus J.
In the day.
On Legacy Internet Radio. Independent, y'all. Independence is key to building your own legacy. Ain't No Half Steppin with Marcus J. We're gonna take a break. We're gonna do our rants and closings. We'll be back in a minute.
Lil Webby in here.